Well, I blame myself. Maybe it was because I didn't get my point across clearly enough, or you didn't understand me in some way, both of which were probably due to my less than preferable rhetoric, I would assume. And as another side note, you did make a video response pretty damn quickly. Much faster than I expected. I actually expected you to block me, like many people who disagree with my views, but I thoroughly appreciate your time and effort to make a video response, hence why I'm making a video response back.
This comparison is an attempt to make you all feel normal, that the animals do it too, and that somehow that makes it okay for humans. But what about animals who eat their feces or who eat their young? Is that a normal human behavior? Is that a behavior that if you met a person who had eaten their infant and they told you that animals did that as well and that was normal and natural, would you accept that as a response?
At this point in the video, I think this is the part where I either miscommunicated my point or you misunderstood my point. My argument was not that just because animals engage in homosexual activity makes it perfectly okay for humans to do so as well. No, that's not my point. The point I was trying to address with that list of animals that engage in homosexual activity was your point of whether the penis was designed for the vagina or not. And I said specifically that no, that's not necessarily the case. Because you see this happening in nature. And yes, you see a man or a male animal inserting his penis into another male's anus. That's seen in nature. Does that make it right? Well, not necessarily. But it definitely does say that the penis wasn't necessarily designed specifically just for the vagina.
Homosexual sex is incorrect sex. You never said whether or not you agreed with that. Now, is oral sex incorrect sex? Yes. Is anal sex between a man and a woman incorrect sex? Yes. I don't have a problem with saying that. Do I like both of them? Sure, I do, with a woman. Okay? But the difference is that I'm not promoting it as a lifestyle that is equal to what I know to be the correct lifestyle.
In case you've missed the last point I made in my previous two videos, I've already told you that's a trick question. There is no such thing as correct or incorrect sex. It's all a matter of subjectivity. I personally would only engage in penetrative vaginal sex. I don't care much for any other forms, but that's only because of my personal preferences. Just as your personal preferences might be a little larger, and you might engage in oral sex, or you might engage in anal sex. That's your choice. And homosexuals might want to engage in homosexual anal sex. That's their choice. But there's no right or wrong with each and every one of our choices. It's just a matter of subjectivity. You also seem to be under the misconception that I, along with homosexuals and those who support homosexuals, seem to say that this homosexual lifestyle should be promoted in some way, and that's not true either. All we're saying is that homosexuals should gain the exact same rights that we heterosexuals have, without any exceptions. They should not have their marriage called civil unions. It should be recognized as marriage. Don't misunderstand, though. Just because I support homosexual rights does not necessarily mean I promote homosexual lifestyles as some sort of alternative to the heterosexual lifestyle, because that's, again, a matter of subjective opinion. Just as I would not promote anal sex as some better alternative to vaginal sex and try and force that alternative down people's throats. No. And I don't think homosexuals are trying to do that either. All they're trying to say is that they deserve the rights that everyone else has. They deserve the right that their marriage should be called marriage and not civil unions. They deserve the right to hold a job without getting fired based on their sexual preference. Now, if you phrased your question a different way and said, is homosexual sex incorrect sex for the purpose of procreation, I will say yes, it is. However, I will also say then all other alternate forms of sex would be considered incorrect sex if you want to procreate. So anal sex and oral sex, all other forms of sex would be considered incorrect by that standard.
Okay? And it doesn't do you any good to deny that. Okay? Penis is designed for reproduction, which is why even at the end of completely non-reproductive homosexual sex, homosexual men still ejaculate sperm. Okay? It's not sometimes, it's not every once in a while, it's not when they feel like it. It's at the climax of every sexual encounter, a man will ejaculate sperm because the penis has one intention. Okay? One. You know? Okay, now urinate, okay, that's a bodily function. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in terms of reproduction and in terms of sex and the climax of sex. The penis it's not trying to just have fun. That desire is in your head, which is where I explained to you that homosexuals suffer from a mental dis-ease.
I would also like to add that you seem to be under the misconception that sexual urges are a part of the mind, and they're not. They're part of the physical body, just like hunger. And how one person gets sexually aroused is that they have arousing thoughts or they see something arousing. So how do sexual urges get activated? Well, you have to be sexually aroused first, right? So your assertion that homosexual men are secretly attracted to women based on the fact that they ejaculate is incorrect, because homosexual men, yes, they do ejaculate, but why they ejaculate? Because of the same reason everyone else does. The same reason being that they've reached sexual climax based on what turned them on. And what did turn them on is the attraction to other men, or in the case of women, other women.
Okay? So if I, as a heterosexual man, from time to time decide to engage in some other form of sex, that is an option, but I don't live a lifestyle that is exclusively about pleasure. Okay?
And I'd also like to add that yes, people have based their lifestyle upon whatever sex turns them on the most. So yeah, there are people that do engage solely in anal sex, or people that do tend to prefer oral sex, but you don't stand against those people, do you now? You seem to stand only against homosexuals. Why is that? Because I think you're cherry-picking your beliefs based on your personal preferences.
Lock and key, okay? Is a key supposed to go into a lock? Isn't it true that the only time you will find the true purpose of a key or a lock is when they come together? If you bang two locks together or two keys together, do you get the same result that you would get when you use these and apply these two things to one another? Do you? No, you don't. So why would you try to make sense out of that?
The problem with your whole penis is designed for one purpose kind of argument is, again, based on the lack of evidence you provided. Let me see if I can parody your logic. Creationists often approach me and say, well, human beings were obviously designed because you see a painting, it must have been designed by a painter, right? And I say no. And I will say this exact answer as I would tell them. We know paintings are designed by painters because we've seen it before. We've seen people paint paintings, and there is no other naturalistic explanation to explain that otherwise. Same with your lock and key example, and the same with your hammer example. We have seen people use hammers before. We know that hammers were designed for one specific purpose because we designed it ourselves. But have we seen human beings being designed? No, we have not. Do we know that human beings are designed for one specific purpose? No. Biological objects, like us and our sexual tools, as you might put it, and objects that we specifically designed, like the hammer that you provided, or the gas on the radiator example, are not mutually comparable.
And you're right. The majority of the country has not accepted homosexuality, but you are gaining in acceptance not because of the fact that people understand homosexuals more, but because there is lobbying. There's a lady, Dr. Laura Schlesinger, she had a radio show in Los Angeles. Well, it was a nationally syndicated radio show. But this is a doctor who made some comments about homosexuals and homosexuality. There's Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and several other doctors. And the pressure is immediate and it is immense from these gay organizations to silence scientific facts about homosexuality.
Here's the problem with your conspiracy theory, as with many other conspiracy theories. Slavery was perfectly acceptable. Slavery, particularly of African Americans, was perfectly acceptable way back when, until the time when people were starting to say that slavery was not okay. And there would be people like you who would say, well, they don't really support African Americans. They just want to push some secret agenda on the rest of the United States. They don't actually gain acceptance of these African Americans. It's only because of political reasons.
For political reasons. Okay? So please don't act as if there is no conspiracy. You may not be involved in it or aware of it, but there definitely is one, and you benefit from the conspiracy whether you are involved in it or aware of it. Okay?
You claim to be a man of fact, don't you? Well, provide me with some. I'd be glad to do some more research on this subject, to maybe inform myself on the other side. However, all you've said, and all people like you continuously say, is that you know this exists. It's like creationists tell me, you know God exists. Well, no, I don't know if God exists or not. If I saw some evidence, and some irrefutable evidence at that, maybe I might be convinced of that fact. But all they've provided me is some wishy-washy evidence called the Bible, just as all you've provided me is some wishy-washy evidence called your subjective opinion.
But yeah, what I would like for you to do is prove to me that a penis is supposed to be inserted in an anus, and that an anus's design is the same as a vagina's design in terms of its ability to withstand repeated penetration.
Okay, one last point that you made was for me to prove that the penis was meant to go into the anus. And I will answer you honestly right now. I have no such proof. I cannot prove that the penis was necessarily meant to go into the anus. However, I will prove that it does not necessarily mean that the penis was only meant to go into the vagina. I've already provided you with the evidence that you say I didn't, but I don't think I can go any further than that. So just because I don't have any proof that the penis was meant to go into the anus, does that necessarily mean homosexual sex is wrong? Of course not. It just means that it's different sex. It does not mean it's correct or incorrect, because, again, that's a matter of your subjective opinion. I personally do not agree with that kind of sexual behavior because I personally don't like it. It's just what I believe in. And what you believe in is different from what I believe in, and what I believe in and what you believe in is different from what many homosexuals believe in. That's our opinions, and I'm not trying to force what I believe in on you, and you shouldn't be trying to force that opinion on me and on the rest of the homosexual community and the rest of the people who support homosexuals. And in case you didn't get it the first time, that does not necessarily mean that I promote the homosexual lifestyle just because I support homosexual rights. I just think their lifestyle should be equally as acceptable as the rest of us. It doesn't mean that it's better or worse or something we should look up to or look down upon. It's just different. Just like I'm different from you. Just like you're different from a majority of other people. It's just people being different, and there's nothing wrong with being different. One misconception I'd like to address is that people seem to think I'm a homosexual. Otherwise, why would I be supporting them, right? And the thing is, I'm not a homosexual. I'm not a bisexual. I'm straight. I don't care what you believe in. I don't care what everyone else believes in. That's irrelevant to me. But I know what I am. And I support homosexuality not because it benefits me in any way, but because I think it's the right thing to do. Thanks for watching, and may the truth always be heard. Peace.